Thank you. Afternoon, Council. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of August 12th, 2025 to order with adoption of the agenda as amended to include an updated letter from Mayor Sauls related to item 13A. And I would like to move 13A up to 4B directly behind business arising from the minutes. I'm going to call for a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 22nd, 2025.
Sorry, Worship, can you please call the question on?
Oh,
you need a
sorry.
second or even to adopt
Yeah.
the agenda?
So someone want to make the motion for me on adopting the agenda? Councillor Devlin, Councillor Stapenhurst, all in favor? Yes.
So you're adding an item, is it in our agenda package?
I don't know whether it's there.
Here.
Now that it's got the written letter that you can all peruse and change at your leisure as we go through the meeting.
Sorry, just since this is being handed out through the chair, Your Worship, there has been significant correspondence initiated by me back and forth with staff over the past week on this, and this is sort of last minute. I haven't had a chance to revise it or read this letter here. By doing this right now, I'm just double checking we're putting this on the agenda for consideration. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm just trying to get up to speed. Okay.
And then, so if we go through the letter, Councillor, and you want changes or anyone around the council table would like to do changes, we can do those changes now and get the letter out fairly quickly.
So any textual changes on the letter would be need to be made at this point or
Can be made at this
later
point
on
or later,
on the
depending on what
agenda.
council wants.
Okay. Just I guess my point is that I did also send a follow-up email today just seeking an update on a decision and hadn't heard back after I think at least 4 or 5 back and forth on correspondence over the past week. So I'm just wondering if it's challenging to absorb this and understand the technical nature of this letter on the fly.
Yeah, and most of this letter actually accommodates your emails. So I think you'll find it should be to your benefit. However, we will discuss that.
Okay, just my point is that in process matter, I think it would have been helpful to have this prior to the meeting since there's been extensive back and forth detailed correspondence on this issue, and then getting it in 1 minute, having no chance to look and absorb it and expect it when there was lots of opportunity prior to this is a challenge. I just want to note that over.
All right. So we have adopted the agenda. Is that correct?
You need to call the question.
All those in favor? Opposed? Note that Councillor Palmer is opposed. Balance of Councillor is in favor. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 22nd, 25. Somebody want to make that motion for me? Councillor Devlin, seconded by Councillor Cherry. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? Councillor Palmer?
Mayor Sauls, based on information I've received, I understand you're going to give us an update on the land disposition.
Yes. Any other comments? So I will bring up some business arising from the minutes. So as mayor, I have the ability to reconsider a matter that was voted on. I am not going to bring that motion forward to reconsider. However, I have a motion that speaks to the sale agreement with covenants that I think will make everybody satisfied with the issue at hand. And I'd like to read that motion, and if it gets seconded, then we can debate that motion. Is that correct, Ms. Floyd? All right. So that prior to executing the sale agreement related to the portions of land acquired through the road closure bylaw number 2367, the owner must register a 219 blanket geotechnical covenant and the geotechnical report dated October 2nd, 2024 over lot 6 and lot 7. register a 219 no-build covenant and covenant survey plan over Lot 6 and Lot 7, which includes restricting the removal of 2 large Douglas fir trees located on the 1.179.3 square meter adjacent to Lot 6, and register a statutory right-of-way SRW on any portion of land acquired in relation to utilities, and remove any and all chattels included but not limited to, the van and chain link fencing located along Pearson Street and at the rear of lots 6 and 7. Do I have a seconder for that motion for discussion? Councilor Devlin. So I feel that with this motion, we have given our city the best possible resolution that we can over this issue, and that this will meet the concerns of the neighbors. Any other comment from other members of council or from staff? So I'll go to council first. Councilor Cherry, then Councilor Palmer.
You've mentioned the chain link fence on the property. I'm just curious as to why.
I went to and looked at the property, and so the property along Pearson has a chain link fence encompassing our property all the way around to the back. And it basically says, hey, this is our property, even though it belongs to the city. So I didn't notice it before because it's green chain link fencing and is hand built. Councilor Palmer.
Would we be able to have the motion voted there? Thank you. Again, because we're just seeing this for the first time, it would be much like the other item. It'd be nice to see these items in advance. It's an ongoing and chronic problem. So a question, Mayor Souls, will this be entrenched in the bylaw?
Ms. Floyd, yes? No?
No, the bylaw's been adopted. This is strictly related to the sale agreement. So prior to the city entering into the sale agreement, all of these items must be met.
And registered on title.
Yes,
Prior to the sale?
yes. Or concurrently, depending, because they'll have to register on the consolidated lots.
A requirement of the sale.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls. So that this probably helps correct a number of problems with this whole application. As you're aware, I sent an email encouraging reconsideration, which I still consider better. And again, this is at this point, the actual decision of council to dispose of the land, I'm not disputing that. That's the will of council on a 3-2 split last council meeting. So I'm not disputing that decision. I am continue to be concerned about the procedural aspects of this, including my rights as an individual councillor on timely information put on the agenda. So I'll continue to be concerned about that. But as far as this goes, yes, it helps on a few items. Is that old van or whatever it is that's been on our right of way for years, has that been dealt with?
Still there, but it has to be removed
Okay, so,
prior to transfer of title.
and that's on here as
The
well?
bottom, last one.
Okay, yeah, it's hard for me to absorb that on the fly. And yeah, thank you very much.
Councilor Cherry, then Councilor Lucille.
Just a question about the 2 large Douglas fir trees. If this goes through, who retains the liability if anything were to happen to those? For example, if there was windfall or any safety related issues?
Split comment?
We didn't look into that. However, it would be through our insurance provider, MIABC, and the legal team to determine responsibility.
Councilor Palmer, or Councilor Lucille, then Councilor Palmer.
Thanks, Mayor Schultz. Just to continue on Councilor Cherry, obviously with the sale, restricting the removal, but what would be the repercussions if they were after the fact chose to remove those trees?
I'd have to go to Mr. Gyps regarding bylaw, if those trees were removed.
Through your worship, if the trees were removed without approvals from the municipality, we would begin a long form information prosecution to be able to go after the individual for removal of those trees. We could, through the long form, we could require replanting of trees of similar nature, things along those lines, but it can be challenging if they are.
Councillor Plummer.
Yeah, just on the trees, a couple points from my experience. After the sale happens, one of those trees, I believe, will be straddling the properties. And so any liability on that would be a matter of those individual property owners, I believe. I might be corrected, but the city would no longer have that direct responsibility. Other than possibly because of this covenant on there might be some attachment that comes back to the city. And just further to Councillor Lucio's question about what happens if they get chopped down. And yes, there is those by law enforcement things, provided the city knows about it. And that, you know, so if we don't know about it, so for example, in the last year, we've had extensive tree removal that was going on in Arrow Heights and some of our parkland. And trees, I think, will end up becoming a bigger issue. But I think it's an important component of this. This is the best we can do on this file. Thanks.
Any other comments from council? Councillor Roman.
So just a question. Sorry, I've lost my spot here. This is, are we, what point are we in adoption?
Business arising.
Business arising, sorry. Yeah, so when, just to check my understanding, business arising of the minutes is the opportunity for mayor or any member of council who voted in the affirmative to bring this back to council. I didn't vote in the affirmative, so I don't have that information.
Can I just point of order if I may?
Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thin ice here. I'm not sure where I'm going with this.
I sort of concur with where Councillor Orlando is going, but right now there is a motion on table that's not part of any reconsideration.
Yes.
Your worship, in consideration of this motion, there is no longer an option for for legal clarity here. There is no longer an option for the mayor or members of council who voted in affirmative to bring this back, or is this the opportunity right now?
Ms. Floyd, comment?
This motion is on the table, so it would be a separate motion.
So it could come after.
It could.
Yeah. My feeling is we did receive correspondence from those involved as well as staff, and I was anticipating further advice from staff, and I think it's especially critical. I sent an email just prior to the meeting today that those who are in a position to potentially reconsider that, council members who voted in the affirmative, have the latest advice. I as far as I'm aware, was not provided. So although that's likely not a legislative requirement, if there is something that is relevant, that I think council members should be made aware of that appraised prior to the ability to make this decision. This is a bit of a left turn. There was an option to include this on the agenda on the weekend now. And again, on two issues that are, the two issues on this agenda that are similar to this is the same thing as we are being dumped complex information at the last minute. And both in times expecting further correspondence from staff. So my feeling is this may resolve the issues. I don't know. I have consulted with the people involved prior to the last decision. I don't know if have had a chance to take a look at this, or if the other neighbors have had a chance to look at what status we have in this. So it's extremely difficult to make a decision, especially considering, we still are in a position to overturn this. and the practical implications or what everyone thinks and is unknown. So this is, I don't think this is a good way to do it. One remedy for all of these things is to put them on, to respond and communicate and get it settled and get it on the agenda prior to the agenda, not at the last minute.
Any other comments, Councillor Paul?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I will be in support of the motion on the table. I still hope that there will be an opportunity for consideration of the motion separately, but by virtue of this motion, if we move ahead, then it's adding protections, some additional protections which are desirable. And if there is a reconsideration, when that comes back, I think this will set a tone of where that goes if there is a reconsideration in the future. So I will be in support of this motion.
Okay, I'll ask one last time if there's any other comment, and I will call the question.
I'm going to support this in the sense that it does, as Councilor Palmer was saying, it does move something in the right direction, but I think this is cart before the horse because we don't even know if we're going to reconsider something and we're absent of advice that was promised to or committed to council by email. And moving forward without the ability to have the benefit of what that says to us. And again, because this is, it's a real challenge that this comes at the last minute, I don't think it should. I think it's chronic, especially in situations that involve back and forth and stressful or trauma-inducing situations. We have a reaction to do things this way, and it's just really bad for cohesion. It's really bad for teamwork, and it's really bad, I think, risky for the taxpayer in terms of our liability.
All right, I'm going to call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried unanimously. Now, because we are still in business arising, I have made a statement that I am not going to bring this back for reconsideration, but there are two councillors in the room who voted in affirmative, and I will ask them if they would like to bring back this for reconsideration. Councillor Devlin? Councillor Cherry?
Nope.
All right, the matter is now closed. We're going to move on to business arise, or pardon me, item 13A. So a letter has been prepared. I spent the weekend preparing this letter and had staff look it over this morning. So my apologies if you're feeling that you're not getting it in a timely way. This addresses the ongoing back and forth comments made by Councillor Orlando to staff over the weekend. I was copied in many emails regarding this issue. I believe this issue actually deals with it in the way that Councillor Orlando had asked it to be dealt with. But I'm just going to ask you to take a moment to peruse it. And then I'm going to make a statement about this. So I'll give you that moment to just look it over, and then we can go over it in detail. Okay, any comments? So Councillor Orlando, I'll start with you because you had brought the motion forward as is printed in the letter, but also were concerned that I neglected to include that in my original letter to the minister. And you are correct. I did omit that, not intentionally, but we now feel that we have rectified that. Do you have comments?
Yeah, having had a chance to review the letter, I think it does fulfill the intent of the correspondence I've been doing over the past week, which is to point out that the issue is related to the lease assignment document that is part of the sale process, and that refusal from some owners to sign this document in effect collapses any deal that involves financing, which is the majority of what people are going to be doing in order to get into housing in the community. So I do think that it covers that intent, and I do believe that resending this will rectify the issue at hand, and I do appreciate that. I do have to say, though, that I really think that, with 4 or 5 emails, including over the weekend and last week, that a better way to do this would be to say, prior to the meeting, we've made a decision. Each one of those letters called for a decision, and it's really bad for cohesion and teamwork to have to repeatedly do things this way. However, in the end, this is the conclusion we're looking for. And I know that there are hundreds of residents of Revelstoke who are very concerned about this issue. And I'm glad to see that we are at least sending a letter to the ministry to see what the response will be on this issue. So I'm happy with that. Thank you to staff for corresponding and looking into it and arriving to something that I think is going to work.
Any other comments from councilors? Seeing none, I'm going to ask if someone would like to put a motion on the table to send this letter off to the minister. Councilor Orlando, seconded by Councilor Lucel. Any further discussion on the letter? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you for your time for us getting this dealt with. And going to move on to announcements from the mayor. We've got a postcard from the Girl Guides as they are in Paris. They wanted to say thank you to council for the support through the Ready grants, and because of that, they're able to make their trip and are quite enamored with Europe. And at the time that the postcard came in, they were in Paris and were heading off to Spain. So also want to make note, there'll be no further council meetings in the month of August until September 9th. And then in September 9th, that will be the only council meeting because council will be at UBCM. So it'll be the only council meeting until October. However, there is a committee of the whole meeting on September 11th and a finance committee meeting tomorrow. All right, I'm going to move on to staff reports.
Question for you here. So it's just on your report. So will you be away for part of August?
I will be away starting 14th until the 21st.
And acting mayor.
Is Councilor Stevens.
Okay, thank you.
All right, staff reports 11A, CED Resort Development Strategy Request for Approval. Ms. Moffat, is there an oversight on this before I ask for it to be put on the table? You've actually got a presentation?
No. No, I just come prepared in case there is, but I don't have a presentation.
Does someone want to put the motion on the table? Councilor Orlando.
Thank you. I move that the Resort Development Strategy 2025-2027 be approved and that the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to sign a contribution agreement with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture.
Seconded for the motion, please, Councilor Palmer. Discussion on the motion. Does anyone have questions of Ms. Moffat? Councilor Stevens.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Moffat, I have a question in regards to the performance slip not being approved. Can you speak to that, please?
Through the chair to Councillor Stabenhurst. We didn't have much information about that change of direction from the ministry. But we did get a larger base funding amount, which is kind of in accordance with the same dollar figure as our previous base amount plus the performance lift. But we haven't been given any other information on as to why that has taken place.
Thank you for that explanation.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Thank you, Kat, for the report. I know that there's been some staffing challenges for a little while there, and so this is not a criticism. It's just hoping in the future there'll be some sort of PowerPoint that goes with this, because it's exciting news and of interest to the community. It's kind of hard to absorb all these words, but yeah, well done. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Young.
Yeah. Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to thank staff, noting Councillor Palmer's comments that during a time when staffing levels have been reduced, they've worked really hard over the past several months with many stakeholders to develop the strategy as they move forward. It is complex and there's a lot of information available, but I feel that, as far as our consultation and reaching out to others, we've done so quite extensively. So I don't know if we'll hear any surprises or hear from anybody who are surprised. They've all had an opportunity, so it's nice to move that forward. And yeah, regarding the base funding issue, that's something the committee became aware of a while back, and it just seems to be lumped over into the main section. In my view, as long as funding levels are maintained, it's actually a bit easier because we have to do some sort of retroactive budgeting through the year where we sort of have this maybe not 10%, and it became a bit harder at the start of the year to start of the cycle to actually allocate the funding in that way. So we would actually allocate it more towards performances or non-long-term projects, but that also placed a lot of risk in specific types of events if there was an issue.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? So I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11B, BC Transit Contract Annual Operating Agreement. Mr. Black, do you have an overview?
I do not, Your Worship. I am available for questions, and so is Ms. Danica White of BC Transit to answer additional questions should council have any.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here, Ms. White. I'm going to ask for a councillor to put this motion on the table. Councillor Devlin.
Move that the annual operating agreement with BC Transit for provision of transit services in the community for 2025 to 2026 be approved, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign the AOA for 2025 to 2026.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Cherry. Further discussion on the motion. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Thank you, Mr. Black, for your reports. I'm not sure if my question is more for this one or the following report. I think it's maybe the next one on the buses, the new buses. So that's been disappointing over the last couple of years on the acquisition. So can you just sort of give an overview of what this does and what it doesn't do to what we sort of expected a couple of years ago?
Thank you, Councillor. A very good question. And I'll turn this over to Danica. These MOUs and this AOA are intimately tied together for this coming year. And Ms. White can provide some guidance here on where we are today with this AOA, and then what the MOU will ask for council's consideration to take to the province.
Ms. White, if you'd like to weigh in now, please.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, great. So thanks for the question, and respectfully through the chair. So this MOU process allows us to make a request to the province for funding on your behalf. And as you've noted, we've done this a couple times already. And I guess there has been unprecedented demand from local governments to see service expansions to their transit systems. And so over the last couple years, and what we expect for the future, is that demand will continue to be really high, and it'll exceed the funding and the vehicle resources that we've been able to secure from the province. So every year we make this request. We're proposing to make this request again. And as we get closer to budget day, we start to get a better idea of what the sort of total service expansions are that BC Transit will be asking for. And we start to get a better idea from the province of what their ability to fund these expansions might be. Nothing is confirmed until budget day. I will say that because you are specifically looking for heavy duty buses, they are in short supply. Funding for expansions, I guess the request is quite a big one. So we're going to put it forward again, and we will be waiting until the provincial budget is announced in February to see what the provincial budget is able to provide for funding. And that can sort of be three different scenarios. It can be all expansions get funded, it can be no expansions get funded, or it can be sort of some partial funding that allows us to fulfill some of the requests or a portion of the requests from local governments. And that's what we experienced last year. So we did implement some aspect of the funding that was requested last year.
And if I might add, Your Worship, to council, we were successful in getting another 2,000 hours of funding from the province, and an additional 2 light duty buses to bring into service here. Correct me if I'm wrong. So somewhat of a good news, not the best news. We continue to look for that big ask, and we will continue to ask, and I would certainly encourage council at the next big meeting in Vancouver to chat with our Minister of Transportation and Transit, Mr. Farnsworth, about accelerating our asks.
Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the update. So it's kind of status quo, and it is disappointing because it was more optimistic a couple of years ago. So yes, we do have some work cut out for us at UBCM. I think really we need to be collaborating with other communities to put that higher pressure, but ultimately that is more provincial funding taxes. In other words, I did note, I think it's in your next report, the 2,000 hours, so that's good news. My specific question I'll ask now on that is, so last year there was some problems with skiers left behind. And so is that going to largely, do we anticipate that to help that substantially, or?
I would not expect that to help substantially. I expect it to help in a very minor way. Our system is so successful that we absolutely must have large heavy duty equipment to meet the demands of the community and the resort. In order to meet the goals of our transportation master plan, to maintain small roads, more active transportation, and this is key to that success.
Yeah, so just further to Aristoteles with recognizing the impact on the community. So it's the tourism sector for sure. It's the ski hill, but then it's the hotels, it's people coming to town. And I just wonder with our sort of not so optimistic anticipation of bigger funding, the bigger buses, whether we should be going back through, tourism or through the industry to supplement that, because obviously they're suffering and we do have other methods for tourism funding. So I'm just sort of planting that seed right now, and I'm not sure how that would be executed, but it's going to be a problem this winter if we're leaving skiers behind in the reputation of Revelstoke. Other than maybe we're facing over tourism just like the rest of the world is right now.
Mr. Blackman, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, as staff, the operator and BC Transit and TR RMR are all concerned about this. for the last few months, our operator has been reaching out to different operators, leasing companies throughout Western Canada to see if we can find some coaches that we can bring into service to supplement what we have. So we will continue to do that through the summer, what's left of the summer. And we're hopeful that we can add a few more coaches, large coaches to the system through alternative means. The mountain is very committed to supplementing the funding needed because they see not constructing parking lots as an asset to the community, in addition to the $25,000, $30,000 per stall, the pavement, imperviousness, et cetera. So the mountain is very keen on us moving forward together and have been meeting with Peter Nilsson and Scott, the operator, plus Anthony and Danica from BC Transit to continue to try and find solutions to this issue.
Just my final comment, I guess, is that we're not the only community facing this. I noticed Banff and Lake Louise, big issues there. People are being left behind, doing their dream holiday coming and then they can't get to access to Lake Louise. And, I guess there is a question is it an infrastructure problem or is it an over-tourism or is it a combination of that? But it's some issues that we have to grapple with.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that around the world, but especially here locally. Councillor Stick.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just to, and I'm not sure if this question is best suited to 11B or 11C, but I figured Councillor Palmer, his question regarding the no skiers left behind kind of philosophy, it was a really good segue into this question. And that question is in regards to kind of like the bus stops and the infrastructure that's there. Frequently when I go around town, you see a sign and that's about it. So I'm wondering, while it's not ideal, are we thinking about installing benches and or covered shelters for people that if they are waiting for a prolonged period of time for a bus, they're not sitting there in the inclement weather and getting soaked to the bone? Is that something that's in the works, or maybe you can just speak to that for me?
Thank you, Councillor, through your worship. Yes, that is on my whiteboard in my office as a task to follow through with. We are looking at doing some more enhanced shelters rather than what the typical urban bus shelter is, and we'll be coordinating that work with the RMR and what they're going to be putting in at the base there. The shelters range in price from, and Danica, maybe you can add, I think it's around 7,000 to about 30,000 per shelter, depending. And so we'll be looking at a significant capital expansion to make that work. We do know where we have large amounts of passengers waiting and being left, and so those would be priority. And then the province also has a shelter fund or grant program that we can also apply for. But until we know what that looks like and council adopts that plan and what that shelter looks like, we're keeping it on our list.
Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Any other comments from Councillor Orlando?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the presenters, Director Black, I'm sorry, I can't recall. Ms. White, and Director Black, there we go, how can I miss that? For this, one of the things I want to acknowledge first off, just so you understand me, is I'm very happy and excited to see transit expansions and improvements and all the hard work that staff has done in partnership with many other groups, including BC Transit and operators to bring about those improvements. Again, just to emphasize and acknowledge, one of our key challenges lately has been getting the buses that we had hoped for provincially, and this is something that is an ongoing issue, and I know everyone at the table is committed to continuing to lobby for those changes. So first of all, it's great to see us moving in the right direction on these. Just on one thing I'm going to ask is a question of staff, and that is that what we see in this item as well as the next item is sort of a phased approach for bringing these improvements. Hopefully we'll be getting things like buses in place. We're talking about 2026, 2027, a lot of key issues, but my question is this, is what I hear right now are two main issues. Number one, from residents, including residents who use this to go to work, not related to the resort at all. This is a transit system, is number one, accessibility issues in the neighborhoods. So for example, in Columbia Park, people not having an accessible bus who require one. I know there is Handy Dart, and there's also plans to increase Handy Dart from how many days to how many days? By 2 days, I believe. Yeah, so that's excellent. But if I'm asking staff to speak on that question here, what are we going to see in terms of more accessible buses as we go? And then number two, as already mentioned, is being left behind. People feel they can't rely during peak times on the transit because they go there, they sit there, no bus comes, they don't really know what's up, and they just can't plan their lives around that. And that's again during peak seasons when we're really busy and we get a lot of snow, powder days, things like that. So I was wondering if staff could comment on those two items as is related in these agreements, and what improvements they're going to see, what are residents going to see in the real world change as these goes along.
Mr. Black.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Ms. White, would you be kind enough to talk about the new hours in the system and Handy Dart and the light service vehicles, please?
Sure. So respectfully through the chair. So with the expansion that's going to be implemented in January, we will have Handy Dart service available 5 days a week instead of the current 3 days a week. So that will certainly benefit those that need, that have mobility challenges or that need a bit of extra support getting around town. One of the benefits when we are able to secure heavy duty vehicles through this provincial funding model, those vehicles are fully accessible. And so we will be able to replace the vehicles, some of the shuttle vehicles that are on the road now that aren't accessible, we'll be able to replace those with a fully accessible vehicle. Because right now, all BC Transit vehicles are fully accessible. They have, they're able to accommodate mobility aids and wheelchairs, where some of the other resort or the ski shuttle buses are not. So that is something that we know will improve as soon as we are able to secure heavy duty buses and bring them into service.
Councilor or Mr. Black.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple other things that we continue to focus on from an operational standpoint is to make sure that we keep the morning and afternoon hours at a regularly scheduled period so that they try not to change much between summer, winter, the shuttle, and BC Transit, so that people can expect the bus to be there at specific times. On a regular basis, and so the schedule is not going to be tweaking as much as it has in the past. As far as leaving folks behind, again, working with our operator, he pulls in fleet as needed in the morning, but again, we're running at capacity. We really need that bigger equipment and or more equipment of the same size. With the additional hours that we're seeing, there's an opportunity there that we might be able to pull in one of the smaller buses. Another piece that I'm hopeful that we can work with BC Hydro is perhaps a mechanism that we can ferry their workers to the site, Gen6 site, and then utilize those buses during the regular period of time and pick their workers up in the morning and evenings. So anything that we can think of as an opportunity to make the system better. With the addition of staff housing this year at the Mountain 2, the system's now extended another 1.5 kilometers. And so that adds more time, which causes more time between rides. And so it's a compounding problem that only can be fixed with new, larger equipment.
All right, thank you for the comment. I'm going to call the question on this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number C. Someone put that on for me, please, Councilor Cherry.
Move that the Transit Improvement Program, Transit Expansion Plan MOU with BC Transit be approved and that Mayor and the Chief Administrative Officer or designate be authorized to sign the Transit Expansion Plan.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councilor Devlin. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call a question. All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. White. I appreciate you joining here today. And Mr. Black, for your work as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to move on to item 11D, Revelstoke Visual Arts Center, mural workshop art galleries project. Ms. Donato, do you have an overview for this before I put the motion on the table?
No, Your Worship, I'm happy to address any questions that council should have.
Great, thank you. Someone put the motion on the table? Councilor Lucille.
Move that the request from the Visual Arts Center to host a mural workshop focused on painting an existing sea can located at 1495A Powerhouse Road be approved.
Second for the motion, Councilor Cherry. Any discussion on this motion? Councilor Cherry.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. We've seen a lot of success with the Art Galleries project. It's a key attraction to town, and happy to support this.
Thank you. Councilor Stickners?
Yeah, again, I'm also happy to support this as well. You know, would also be interesting to see if this limits the amount of graffiti that we've seen, and how it could expand this project to other areas, such as underneath the 4th Street Bridge comes to mind of a location where it'd be great to have a new mural.
Okay, good point. And even maybe get some of the graffiti artists to do some of our local garbage cans around town.
They're already doing it for free.
Let's do it formally rather than.
I can add that this is actually a conversation of the public art committee actively.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. All right, we're moving on to correspondence 12A, Home Zero Collective request for support FCM application, Clean Energy Neighborhoods Capital Project. I'm just going to bring up things. This appears to be a collective of people that are requesting support, so I'm sure they're going out to numerous communities to see who's going to bite. We've never done work with these people. We have no experience with them, and they have never done work here. So I am I'm not going to suggest that we support, give them a letter of support in this regard, but I'm open to other comments from council. Anyone else? Councilor Palmer.
I will concur with you, Mayor Souls. I couldn't support it because I really don't know anything about them.
Right.
And we have many things to do, so I'm reluctant to assign this to any staff or committees because we need to focus on our priorities.
Great, appreciate that. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to item B for various concerns. Same thing. I'm not sure whether the comments made are genuine in what we're seeing in our community. Our bylaw department and conservation officers definitely share information and are having ongoing comments and work together. We are seeing a low bear year as far as issues with bears. Is that correct, Mr. Gibbs? And so again, I am not inclined to address these concerns. Councilor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I would concur with you. Also, we have a bear aware coordinator, and so if there's any kind of initiation that should be coming from them, I don't think we need to refer this because they're aware of what they're doing, and if it was important, we'd be hearing about it.
Sure. Councilor Gill.
I just wanted to say, well, I do agree, we don't really need to refer this to any sort of committee or deal with it any further. I do believe that the comments from the fur bearers were actually in reference to being reached out by the Bear Aware Society. They have had some issues with some of the commercial businesses up on the highway, or perceived issues. From their point of view, I've had a meeting with Mr. Gibbs and have been in correspondence with them trying to find a solution. As we know, we are going to be installing bear-proof bins here very shortly next year, I believe. So we are looking at strengthening some of our garbage collection bylaws in tandem with that, but it's still in the discussion phase and we haven't quite gotten into the details of what we'd like to see yet. But just, I do believe that this letter was sent in. I believe the RBAS reached out to fur bearers to get a little bit of support there, so just a bit on the radar, though I do think it's a good year for bears. So.
Councilor Ryan.
Yeah, just a thought on this. we are on a pathway towards a Bear Smart Community status. One of the key and challenging steps or things that need to be in place is curbside organic recycling, which we're pretty close to implementing. I don't know, this yearish, next yearish. So maybe at a later date, it would be great to once we get that up, or to get a sort of an update from on that front to that long, decades long, I should say, drive towards that status that shows we are conforming to benchmarks for bear aware behavior, or what is the term? Is it Bear Smart Community? Is that the term? Bear Smart Community, so that we are, fulfilling that benchmark. I appreciate the letter from this group. It is but we are moving towards all of those requirements to be certified, and so at a later date, it would be great to hear an update from staff in due course.
Good. Any other comments? Seeing none, I will move on to item 12C. Councillor Devlin, you have a statement.
I will recuse myself for this. I'm no longer involved with the local legion. They are still in my earlier documents as they used to employ me, so be outside.
Great, thank you. So Council, Royal Canadian Legion Branch 46 is asking for a letter of support so that they can go after grant applications. Am I correct on that, Ms. Wood?
That is correct.
So I will go to Council Palmer, Councillor Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Solis. I'll put a motion on the table that the mayor write a letter in support of the Revelstoke Legion Branch 46 grant applications that pursuant to their letter here. There's a second to speak to that.
Great. Seconder, Councillor Lucero, you can speak to that now.
Yeah. So unlike the others, we know who these are, and it's an entity, and they're doing good things in the community and are worthy of that support. And I think if that just comes under your signature on behalf of Revelstoke, that'd be great.
Councillor Cherry, comment?
I was actually going to second that, but just for clarification, if you guys are okay with an amendment, it should be Royal Canadian Legion Branch 46.
Yeah.
Councillor Lucero, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Revelstoke.
Any other comments on the letter? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Let our councillor back in, Mr. Judge, please.
I'm back. I'm sorry. That was probably very hard to do.
Yes, it was. Communications 13A, we've dealt with that already. Moving on to 14, questions from the press. Mr. Lindquist, comments, questions?
I suppose this would be for Director Black, Chair. In the last year, in theoretically, if all the handguard buses and public transportation vehicles ran on schedule as per their daily schedule, I don't know how many hours in the day they run, but what was the capacity of that in theory?
Your Worship?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to do some research on what our total capacity is at any given time. It changes throughout the day depending on the load. But that's the minimums I can certainly find.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, through the chair. So once the city of Revelstoke obtains curbside compost, that would be the point upon which the city would pursue their smart status, or other steps on the process.
Good question. Mr. Black, any comment? I'm sorry, we got that darn TV in front of us.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship and Council, and the process that we're undergoing right now is the acquisition of the containers for both garbage and compost. Those would be bear-proof containers in addition to the bylaw updates. And when we get the bylaw update, that was probably certification.
Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, just based on the questions there, I think, and I was thinking about when we were having the discussion, maybe we're overdue for a presentation by the Bearware people. I think it's done annually, but I just can't quite remember the last time we heard, so.
Okay, I'll talk to staff and we'll reach out. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Lindquist?
That's all I have, Your Worship. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now it's our turn to ask you questions. Silence. All right, thank you. Council, I'd like to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1 A, C, E, and K of the Community Charter. Someone make the motion for me, please. Councilor Cherry, Councilor Lucille, all in favor? Motion is carried. We'll take a 10-minute break and be back in camera. And for our presenters, I'm going to ask you to leave the room until we bring you back in.